Somewhere right now she's waiting, not anxiously, not desperately, just quietly certain. Certain that sooner or later you'll crack, that the silence will get too heavy, the loneliness too loud, and one night you'll pick up that phone and send the message that ends it all. The hey, the I miss you, the can we talk? She's counting on it because she's seen it before. She knows the pattern. The man who swears he's done, who goes quiet for a week, maybe two, and then comes crawling back the moment the ache peaks, predictable as the tide. And here's the hard truth that this entire video is built on. The most powerful thing you can do is not the thing she's expecting. The man who breaks confirms everything she already believed about him. But the man who doesn't, the man who feels the full weight of that urge and simply does not move, that man becomes something she has no script for. Something she can't predict, can't manage, and can't pull back with a single well-timed message. Today, I'm going to show you exactly what to do instead of breaking the dark Stoic way. And by the end, you'll understand that holding that silence isn't about her at all. It's about becoming a man who can never be moved by anyone again. But before we go deeper, if you've ever felt that pull at 2 a.m., that whisper telling you to just send one message, then do this for yourself right now. Like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell, because that's how you become a Stoic soldier, a man who shows up for his own discipline every single day and never misses the lesson when he needs it most. And down in the comments, type 4 words and mean them. I hold the line. Say it before you've even finished watching, because the words you claim today become the strength you stand on tomorrow. Now, let's begin. Number 1. The pattern she's counting on. Let's start by understanding the pattern itself, because once you see it clearly, you'll never want to be part of it again. There is a script that plays out between people after a breakup, and it's so common it's almost mechanical. The relationship ends. The man, wounded but proud, declares he's moving on. He goes silent, genuinely at first. A few days pass, then a week. And during that week, something quietly builds inside him. The loneliness, the doubt, the replaying of good memories, the slow erosion of his resolve. And right at the moment the ache reaches its peak, usually somewhere between day 5 and day 14, he breaks. He sends the message, and the second he does, the entire dynamic snaps back into place, because he just told her, without saying it, that his silence was never strength. It was a tantrum, a bluff, a pause before the inevitable return. She didn't have to do anything. She just had to wait him out, because she'd seen this exact movie before, and she knew how it ended. And here's what makes this so important to understand. She's not necessarily being cruel or calculating about it. Often, she's not even thinking about it consciously. It's just a quiet background assumption based on pattern recognition. Most men break, so she assumes you will too. The predictability is the problem. The moment your behavior is predictable, you've handed away all your power, because a predictable man is a man who can be managed. She knows that if she just stays patient, you'll come back on your own and reset everything to her advantage. So the entire game changes the instant you stop being predictable. The Stoics understood that a man ruled by his impulses is a man who can be ruled by anyone who learns those impulses, and the person closest to you has learned them better than anyone. So the work isn't to play some clever counter game. The work is to become a man whose discipline is so real that the old script simply cannot run, because the central character, the man who always breaks, no longer exists. You don't beat the pattern by outsmarting her. You beat it by becoming someone the pattern was never written for. Number 2, why men break. Now let's go inside the moment of breaking, because if you understand the mechanism, you can disarm it before it ever runs. Men don't break no contact because they're weak in some permanent, character-deep way. They break because they get ambushed by a feeling, and they mistake that feeling for a message from reality. It usually happens at night, in the quiet, when the distractions of the day fall away and there's nothing left between you and the ache. And in that moment, your mind starts telling you a very convincing story. It says, maybe I'm being too harsh. Maybe I overreacted. Maybe if I just reach out, the pain will stop. Maybe she's sitting there waiting for me, hurting too, and my pride is the only thing keeping us apart. And the loneliness sharpens every one of those thoughts into something that feels less like a craving and more like wisdom, like an epiphany, like the truth finally breaking through. That is the trap, because it isn't truth. It's withdrawal wearing the mask of clarity. It's your nervous system, deprived of a habit it was addicted to, generating whatever thoughts are most likely to get the habit fed again. Here's the part you have to burn into your memory. The urge to break always feels the strongest right before it breaks for good. The peak of the craving is not a sign that you can't make it. It's the final test right before the storm passes. Men break at the exact moment they were closest to freedom because they read the intensity of the feeling as proof that they need to act, when in reality, it's proof that the old pattern is dying and fighting hardest in its last moments. And the cruelest part is what happens after they send that message. There's a flash of relief, a hit of the old chemistry, and then, almost immediately, the regret. The realization that they just traded weeks of progress for a few seconds of relief, and a reply that, more often than not, doesn't even give them what they were craving. The Stoics taught that the gap between a feeling and an action is where all human freedom lives, and breaking no contact is simply what happens when a man lets that gap collapse, when he lets the feeling drive straight through into the action with nothing in between. So the entire battle is fought in that gap, not in grand willpower, not in hating her, not in pretending you don't feel it, just in learning to feel the full force of the urge, recognize it for the withdrawal it is, and let it pass through you without picking up the phone. Number 3, what breaking actually costs you. So let's talk about the real price of breaking, because most men only count the obvious cost and completely miss the one that actually matters. The obvious cost is the reset. You break no contact, and whatever quiet power your silence had been building instantly evaporates. The open loop you'd created in her mind snaps shut, because now she has her answer. You couldn't stay away. The reappraisal she might have been starting, the wondering, the space your absence was carving out, all of it collapses the moment your name lights up her screen. You hand her closure she didn't ask for and didn't earn, and you reset the entire clock back to zero. That's the cost everyone talks about, and it's real. But it isn't the one that should stop you. Because if your only reason for staying silent is what it does to her, you're still playing her game, just with more patience. The cost that should truly stop you is something else entirely, and it has nothing to do with her at all. The real price of breaking is what it does to you, to your relationship with yourself. Every time you make a promise to yourself and break it, you teach your own mind that your word means nothing. You train yourself to believe that your discipline is negotiable, that your resolve folds under pressure, that when things get hard, you are a man who caves. And that lesson doesn't stay contained to this one breakup. It bleeds into everything: your goals, your habits, your sense of who you are. A man who can't keep no contact with an ex learns deep down that he can't fully trust himself, and that erosion of self-trust is far more expensive than any reset of any dynamic with any woman. But the reverse is just as true, and this is the part to hold on to. Every single time you feel the urge to break and you don't, you make a deposit into the most important account you own, your own self-respect. You prove to yourself that your word holds, that you do what you say, that you are a man who can be counted on, first and foremost by himself. The Stoics believed that the only thing truly worth protecting was your own character, because it's the one possession no one can take from you. So when you hold the line, understand what you're actually protecting. Not a strategy, not a power dynamic. You're protecting the integrity of the one relationship that determines the quality of every other one in your life. The relationship with the man in the mirror. Number 4, the dark, Stoic reframe. Now here is where the dark Stoic mind separates itself from everyone else, and I want you to really absorb this because it changes the entire nature of the game. Most advice tells you to stay strong, to resist, to white-knuckle your way through the urge like a man holding his breath underwater. But that's not power. That's just suppression, and suppression always cracks eventually, because you can only hold your breath for so long. The dark Stoic reframe is something deeper and far more permanent. It says, don't resist the urge to reach her. Dissolve the part of you that has the urge in the first place. Don't be a man straining against a craving for her. Become a man who simply no longer needs her to be at peace. The difference is everything. A man resisting is still being pulled. He's just refusing to move his feet. But a man who has genuinely detached isn't being pulled at all. There's nothing to resist because the hook is gone. And that is the state you're aiming for, not the white-knuckle strength of refusing to break, but the unbothered stillness of a man for whom breaking simply isn't on the menu anymore. And here's why this becomes so quietly devastating to the old pattern. A man who is suppressing can be tested, baited, and eventually worn down because the desire is still alive in him, just barely contained. But a man who has truly become unmoved cannot be manipulated because there's no lever left to pull. You can't tempt a man with something he genuinely no longer wants. You can't bait a man who has nothing to prove. You can't wear down a man whose peace doesn't depend on your behavior at all. This is what the Stoics meant when they spoke of becoming like a fortress. Not walls built to keep an enemy out, but a self so complete that no enemy can find a single crack to enter through. And let me be clear about what this is and isn't, because dark Stoicism gets misunderstood. This isn't coldness. It isn't pretending you feel nothing, or performing indifference to make a point. Performance is still being controlled by her because you're acting for an audience of her. True detachment has no audience. It's not a mask you wear for her benefit. It's a transformation you undergo for your own. You stop needing her to come back. Stop needing her to regret it. Stop needing her to even notice you're gone. And the moment you genuinely arrive there, you've won something far greater than any breakup. You've become ungovernable. Number 5. The discipline of the unsent message. So let's get practical about how you actually build that detachment, because it isn't a switch you flip. It's a muscle you train, one moment at a time. And the gym where you train it is the moment of the unsent message. Here's what I mean. The urge to break almost never arrives as a decision. It arrives as a reach. Your hand is already moving toward the phone before your mind has caught up. The message is half written in your head before you've consciously chosen to write it. That's the danger zone, and it's also the exact place where the strongest version of you gets forged. Because every single time you feel that pull, that reach toward the phone, that message forming itself in your mind, and you stop, and you set the phone down, and you let the moment pass without acting, you are doing something profound. You are widening the gap between impulse and action. You are teaching your nervous system through direct experience that the urge is not a command, that you can feel the entire weight of wanting to send it and still choose not to. And that single skill, the discipline of the unsent message, is the foundation of every other strength a man can build. What makes this so powerful is that it compounds. The first time you resist the urge, it's agony, and it feels like it might break you. The 10th time, it's hard but survivable. By the 50th time, the urge shows up and you barely flinch, because you've proven to yourself so many times that it has no authority over you, that it simply stops carrying the weight it used to. This is how detachment actually gets built, not in one heroic moment of willpower, but in dozens of small, unglamorous moments where you feel the pull and quietly don't obey it. The Stoics had a daily practice of voluntary discomfort precisely for this reason. They deliberately practiced wanting something and not taking it, so that when life demanded restraint, the muscle was already strong. Your unsent messages are your version of that practice. So I want you to reframe every single urge from this moment forward. The next time that pull hits and your hand drifts toward the phone, don't see it as a threat to survive. See it as a rep. See it as the universe handing you another chance to get stronger, another deposit into the man you're becoming. Let the message go unsent and feel what happens. Not weakness, not loss, but the quiet, growing power of a man who is learning that he answers to no craving, no impulse, and no person. Just himself. Number 6. Do this instead. Now we get to the heart of the title, because it's not enough to tell you what not to do. A man needs somewhere to put that energy, or it festers. So here is what you do instead of breaking. When that urge hits, you redirect it. Immediately, physically, every time. The pull toward the phone is just energy, and energy can be aimed, so you aim it. The moment you feel it rising, you stand up and you move. You go to the gym and you put the ache into the iron, because there is no better place to channel longing than into building the body that carries you. You go for the run, the walk, the cold shower, anything that drags you out of your head and back into your body. Because the urge lives in rumination, and motion is rumination's enemy. You pour it into your work, your craft, the thing you've been neglecting, and you let the focus swallow the feeling whole. The principle is simple, but it is everything. You never just sit in the urge and try to resist it with willpower alone. You give it a job. You take the exact energy that wanted to text her, and you spend it building the man she'll wish she never let go of, even though that's not why you're doing it. And this is where the transformation quietly happens, because of a truth most men never grasp. The urge to reach out and the urge to improve are the same energy pointed in different directions. That restless, aching, desperate intensity you feel, that is fuel. It is some of the most powerful fuel a man will ever have access to, and most men waste every drop of it sending messages that set them back. But you're going to do the opposite. You're going to take heartbreak, which destroys weak men, and use it as the most productive season of your entire life. Every urge becomes a workout. Every lonely night becomes a chapter read, a skill practiced, a step forward. Every ounce of energy that wanted to chase her gets reinvested into you, compounding day after day, until you look up months from now and barely recognize the man staring back. The Stoics believed that obstacles aren't in the way of the path. They are the path, that the very thing blocking you is the raw material for your growth if you'll only use it instead of drowning in it. So that's the answer to the title. What do you do instead of breaking no contact? You take every single bit of that energy and you build. You let the silence become the most disciplined, transformative season of your life. And you let the man who emerges from it be the kind of man who never needed to send that message in the first place. Number 7. When she tests the silence. Now I have to prepare you for something, because if you hold the line long enough, there's a good chance the silence gets tested. And if you're not ready for it, this is where months of discipline can unravel in a single careless moment. Sometimes, when you don't break, she does something instead. A small thing, a breadcrumb. She likes an old photo. She views your story. She sends a casual, low-stakes message out of nowhere. Hey, hope you're doing well. Or, this song reminded me of you. Or the classic, hey stranger. And I need you to understand exactly what's happening in that moment, without spiraling into either fantasy or paranoia. It doesn't necessarily mean she wants you back, and it doesn't necessarily mean she's playing some cruel game. Often it's simply this. Your silence created a space she wasn't expecting, and she's reaching out to test the temperature, to see if the door is still open, to restore the comfortable certainty that you're still there if she wants you. And the way you respond to that little breadcrumb will tell her, and far more importantly, tell yourself, everything about which man you've actually become. Here is how the grounded man handles it, and notice that none of this is a game. You don't pounce on it desperately, flooding her with the eagerness you've been holding back for weeks, that throws away everything in an instant and confirms the old script. But you also don't play cruel little power moves, leaving her on red for exactly the right number of days, performing an indifference you're calculating for effect, because that's not strength either. That's just the same neediness wearing a costume, still orbiting her reaction. The truly detached man responds from genuine peace, or he doesn't respond at all, and either way, it costs him nothing because he's no longer invested in the outcome. If he's truly moved on, a breadcrumb barely registers. It's a notification, not an event. If a small, warm, honest reply is what the grounded version of him would send, he sends it briefly and returns to his life without refreshing the screen, waiting for what comes next. The Stoics would tell you that the test of a man's progress is not whether the provocation comes, but whether it moves him. And the goal here is to have built a self so solid that her breadcrumb lands like a leaf on still water. It makes a small ripple, and then the water is still again. No spiral, no strategy, no game. Just a man who has become genuinely unmoved, responding to a small thing as exactly the small thing it is. Number 8, detach from the outcome entirely. Now we arrive at the deepest level of this whole thing, the one that separates a man who's performing strength from a man who has actually become free. And it's going to sound like a paradox at first, so stay with me. Everything I've told you, holding the line, not breaking, redirecting the energy, none of it reaches its full power until you stop doing it for a result. As long as some part of you is holding no contact while secretly tracking whether it's working, checking if she's noticed, wondering if she's missing you, calculating whether the silence is having its effect, you are not actually free. You're just running a more patient version of the chase. You've made your silence a strategy aimed at an outcome, and any silence aimed at an outcome is still controlled by that outcome, which means it's still controlled by her. The final, hardest, most liberating step is to detach from the result entirely, to hold the line, not because of what it might make her do, but because it's simply who you are now. To stop asking, is it working, and start living as though the question no longer exists. This is the part most men can't do, and it's exactly why most men stay stuck, because they want the freedom and the result at the same time, and you cannot have both. The moment your peace depends on a particular outcome, her coming back, her regretting it, her reaching out, you've handed the keys to your serenity to someone you don't control. The Stoics were ruthless about this. They said the surest path to misery is to stake your happiness on things outside your power, and the surest path to freedom is to want only what is yours to give yourself. Her response was never yours. Your character always was. So you let go of the outcome completely, not as a trick to finally get the outcome because the mind will try that, holding on while pretending to let go. I mean a real release. You reach the point where you can honestly say, she can come back or she can stay gone. She can regret it or never think of me again. And either way, I am at peace because my peace was never built on her. And here's the strange, almost magical thing the Stoics understood. It's only from that place of genuine detachment that a man becomes truly powerful, truly magnetic, truly free. Not because letting go is a clever way to win, but because a man who has nothing to lose, who needs no particular outcome, who cannot be moved by hope or fear of what another person does, that man has become something almost no one ever becomes. Unshakable, and nothing she does or doesn't do can touch him ever again. Number 9, the man. She never saw coming. Let me show you who's standing at the end of this road, because I want you to be able to see him clearly on the nights the silence feels heaviest. Remember where we started. She was waiting, quietly certain you'd break, because she knew the pattern, and she knew the man who always returns. But that man no longer exists. In his place stands someone she genuinely never saw coming. This man didn't break. He felt every urge, every lonely night, every 2 a.m. pull toward the phone, and he held, not by white-knuckling, but by slowly becoming someone who no longer needed to reach at all. He took the energy that would have chased her, and he built with it, day after disciplined day, until his body was stronger, his mind was sharper, his life was fuller, and his peace no longer had anything to do with her. He stopped tracking whether the silence was working. He stopped needing her to come back. to regret it, to even notice. And somewhere in all of that, without ever sending a single message, he became the one thing the old pattern could never account for. A man who is genuinely, completely free. And here's the quiet, almost ironic truth about that man. He's no longer trying to be anything to her, and that's precisely what makes him magnetic. He's not performing strength, he simply possesses it. He's not pretending he's moved on, he actually has. And whether she ever sees the transformation or not has become genuinely irrelevant to him, because he didn't do any of it for her. He did it for himself, and that's exactly why it worked. This is the man the Stoics spent their whole lives trying to forge, one whose center of gravity lives entirely within himself, who cannot be controlled by another person's presence or absence, who has made his peace so internal that no one can reach in and disturb it. That man is not a fantasy, and he's not someone with special discipline you don't have. He is simply you, a number of held nights from now, a number of unsent messages from now, a number of redirected urges from now. Every time you feel the pull and don't break, you are walking one step closer to becoming him. So when the silence gets heavy and the old voice whispers to just send the message, remember who's waiting at the end of the road if you don't. Not the man who chased, the man who became unshakable, the man she never saw coming, because you built him in the silence, one held moment at a time. Number 10. The final word. So let's bring it all the way home. She expects you to break, because that's the pattern, that's the script, that's what the man who came before you always did. But you're not going to give her the predictable ending. When the urge hits at 2 a.m., you'll remember that it's withdrawal wearing the mask of clarity, and that the pull is always strongest right before it dies for good. You won't break because you finally understand the real cost isn't what it does to her. It's what it does to your relationship with yourself, to the integrity of your own word. You won't suppress the urge with white-knuckled willpower either. You'll dissolve it by becoming a man who genuinely no longer needs her to be at peace. You'll take every ounce of that aching energy and you'll build with it, turning the loneliest season into the most disciplined chapter of your life. And when the silence gets tested, you won't pounce and you won't play games. You'll respond from real peace or not at all, because you've detached from the outcome completely. That's the whole path. Not a clever trick to win her back. A genuine transformation into a man who can never be moved by anyone again. And the deepest truth of all is this: the moment you stop needing her to come back is the exact moment you finally become free. And a free man has already won, no matter what she ever does. And if this video gave you even a fraction of the strength you came here looking for, then before you go, do these last few things for yourself. Like this video, so it can reach the next man sitting in that silence, one weak moment away from breaking. Subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification bell so you stand with us as a Stoic soldier, a man who shows up for his own discipline every single day and never misses the lesson when he needs it most. From the bottom of my heart, thank you for being here, and thank you for watching all the way to the end. Now put the phone down, lift your head, and go build the man she never saw coming. One held night, one unsent message, one disciplined day at a time. Stay grounded, stay unshakable, and I'll see you in the next one.